I'm Audrey Grant. It seems appropriate that the summer Better Bridge Teachers Newsletter could be brought to you from the lake. So, let's get started. Here's the book review. The title is Jock Talk, a rather unusual title, but what caught my attention when I saw this book at the airport was the subtitle, 5 Communication Principles for Leaders as Exemplified by Legends of the Sports World. We have 5 communication principles in STEAM, S-T-E-A-M. The first one that she discusses is audience centricity. Simply put, here is the definition. Audience centricity is making the audience's interests and experience a top priority in the planning and execution of a talk. Being audience-centric is a mindset shift. This is very similar to what we as teachers have to do with S for safety. It's different to tell a new class every time you see them that I won't be asking you any questions unless you volunteer, so don't be afraid to make eye contact with me. This seems a little bit unusual, but it definitely has the teacher thinking about the audience. And as we all know, the audience is very relaxed when we make this simple statement, which takes a few seconds. The other thing, trying to follow Alfie Cohen's punished by rewards ideas and avoid praising the students, that's extremely difficult to do. And we really have to be keen to think of our audiences and our experiences of students that we have in order to implement such a tip. I'd like to share an interview with Denise Hoffman. She's a Better Bridge teacher trainer, and she has a story about praise. We have Denise Hoffman on the line. She is an extraordinary bridge professional. We're grateful that she's in this field. Denise, you told me a story, and I wanted you to share it with the audience, just about the concepts. So tell us a story that happened when you and Oren were team teaching.
Yes, Oren, as you know, is an amazing young junior. When he was just 17 years old, he was working on his Eagle Scout project, which he decided to make about bridge. He saw the value of bridge as a family activity, and he thought it would be great to set up intergenerational bridge class. And that way, grandparents could bring in their kids or their grandkids. He had hoped it would be grandparents and grandkids, and that's just what happened. Mm-hmm. And find an activity they could do together, and at the same time introduce another generation to bridge.
It must have been fantastic team teaching with Oren in that environment.
It really was. It was great that he asked me to help out with him and work with your materials, but more so that it was a big learning experience for me. I got to see firsthand what happens when you put that kind of energy in a room. Here was a young man sitting with his grandmother, and as you know, it's great whenever you see that someone gets it. We know that what that looked like mm-hmm. on their face. Well, in the case of an 8-year-old, he squealed when he got it.
There's not enough squealing that goes on at the bridge table, really, is there?
Not enough. I can't remember the time before or since I had that experience. It was great. Well, I don't know. It just slipped out of me to go ahead and just praise this young man. And as I did, it was like I sucked the energy out of the room. It was gone.
Do you know what? That sounds like a bit of an exaggeration.
It isn't. What happened is I could see just in front of me and all sides of me the shoulders of the others go down. And then as there was others who were even averting their eyes. The first group thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to compete with an 8-year-old. How can I do that?
Yeah, how can you squeal like that to get the praise?
I hope she doesn't do that to me. And I saw firsthand what the both sides of the coin of what damage praise can do in a group setting.
That's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, I guess if we hadn't digested Alfie Cohen's book, I mean, this is how I felt about it anyway, then the idea of observing energy in a classroom and what happens in different situations, we wouldn't be as trained.
No, and it made me reflect upon that. Obviously, this was an extraordinary example, but even if someone hadn't squealed, there were other examples.
Sorry.
In the past.
Yes.
And I just didn't pay attention to what that did to the others, much less the person in front of me who is now like a trained SEAL wanting to get praise from me again.
Yes, yeah, I know. Isn't it strange? And I think, Alfie's book, as you know, has, some of the comments are that, after 400 pages of detailed example, yes, we get it. But it's a little more than that. But thank you, Denise, for sharing that story. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon at the next North American Bridge Championship. And I think that we're going to be involved in a very artistic project. And we will tell the teachers more about that, Denise, in our next newsletter. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking me to join you today. I really enjoyed that. And again, thank you for introducing me to Alfred Cohen's book.
You're welcome. Beth has some ideas about how we can tell whether we're being successful. Listen to this. When speakers run over their allotted time, it's all about them and not the audience. Sometimes they get carried away. They're unconsciously assuming they're so smart, so interesting, and so witty that the audience loves the sound of their voice as much as they love talking. More often, though, it's the speaker's drive to be thorough or to get through their entire deck of slides that causes them to run overtime. Either way, the result is too much information, and the effect shows a lack of regard for the audience's interests, time, or overall experience. That's a tough concept to grasp because when we might do this as a teacher, we think we're being considerate to the audience rather than what Beth is suggesting here. Watch your language. A student shared that she didn't like my pronunciation of the word often. The T should be silent and it should be often. I was slightly offended and I went to the internet to see what the internet had to say about the pronunciation of the word O-F-T-E-N. To my surprise, it suggested that if you're a speaker, it's really best not to pronounce the T. As it turns out, those of us who do pronounce the T often really don't mind if the T isn't pronounced. We don't think that there's anything untoward about it. It's not the same, however, for those who don't pronounce the T. They, it seems, might look down on those of us who say often. So what's the moral of this story? Well, when we're teaching, we want to play the odds. And if there are people who are offended by often, I think we should give up pronouncing it like that and we should just simply say often. I'm going to show you some quotes from the internet for your enjoyment. I guess it pays to watch your language. Thank you for joining me for News and Views, the summer issue of the Better Bridge Teachers Newsletter.